Okay, we are live now, and this is in the ongoing discussion of tokenization, particularly with respect of precious metals, rare metals, and the others, because now metals itself is being the new, or I'd rather say something which was not understood by many operators in the world, particularly the stakeholders in terms of the governments and the others. So we have different sectors. One is healthcare sector. Second, most paramount is the pharmaceutical sector. And healthcare and pharmaceutical sector, they go hand in hand. Apart from that, for the longest time, we have this education sector, which is totally broken. And particularly in the viewpoint of 2025 and beyond, a lot has to be done. So all the investments of all the folks in all capacities, and this education sector, I'm particularly talking about from the year 1999 onwards. So a lot of investment has happened in India, particularly from the operators of the world in India, to understand how the education sector works. From time to time, different courses, whether government or private, were introduced, but still a lot has to be done. But I'll just come back to the understanding of tokenization right now, and we will start with the input data. And this input data can be utilized to tag the data sets for real data. We are not looking into any kind of synthetic data. So in some of the occasions, I do perform some kind of due diligence around the data sets, and that itself, it's a small data set, but the results are really good. That cannot be amplified because the candidates involved in the data sets are selected on a number of parameters. They're not set number of parameters, but at least we like to look into 99 plus parameters as far the candidates are concerned for the selection process. Okay, let's talk about the tokenization of these assets, and we will start based on the tokenization on market factors. When we're talking about market factors, when internet is being utilized, so there's something called as clause 35, which is very important from the understanding of the market dynamics of trade. How it is related to TRIPS, that's another question altogether. Clause 35 is anything where businesses can only be run in two ways. Either you are providing goods, either you're providing services, or it's a combination of both. It can be different models altogether. So market factors, it can be tagged around a couple of tagging rules, and one tag, which is one of my favorite, is G not here, not word here, stands for null. So it's G is generative for me right now. G0, or I'll rather say null, 6Q 3 null slash null 206. So this is particularly to increase or decrease the exchange rate in terms of the pricing and the cost or the fee structures determination based on market factors. Now, market factors itself, there are zillion hypotheses, there are zillion things which can be taken into account. The problem statement right now with most of the enterprises when they're utilizing software as a service, that is SaaS model, they are utilizing the data set based on the pre-COVID era, or I would rather say because we decided on the date of, it's a new world order since 1st of April 2020, and before that, honestly, we have just taken everything as null. That makes a life easy when we are trying to understand the protocols to execute it in a fast, speedy manner. That being said, so I talked about one of the tagging. Then we have, so a lot of discussion is happening around hash, SHA, and the others. So there's something called as message hash. This particularly is under the classification of G06Q20/3827. Then we have market modeling, market analysis, collecting market data, which is G06Q30/0201. Referral reward system. Oh my gosh. For the longest time, I don't understand why all the business models, particularly in the crypto world, talking about blockchain and others, everything is MLM. There's nothing new about what folks are doing. And it's like, even for Bitcoin for that matter. So for the referral reward system, it is under the classification of G06Q30/0214. Financial accounting, it is G06Q30/0215. Advertisement. Now, this advertisement understanding, for the longest time, I will talk about combined experience of at least 300 years, because our core group of folks who are the best of some of these industries where we work as a core, that is 300 plus years of experience. And the agility of the folks or the candidates in the core itself is something which I am grateful in all capacities. So I want to talk about the referral. Did I talk about referral? It's G06Q30/0214. Advertisement. Oh my gosh. Everybody is like pushing advertisement. I won't name the company, but this company can always, if at some point of time they look onto this recording, they can understand. So there's a brand, particularly in India, probably started during the lockdown or after 2020. I stopped purchasing from them because every time I ordered something, there was a face of someone which I don't want to look. I mean, you're not supposed to advertise anything and everything and push it to the consumer. You have to concentrate on your product. You cannot concentrate on whatever you wish to think about. And the pain point here is, few of the states in India, they think they understand law better than the other states. The answer is big no. Little understanding of law will make you look like a fool when you don't understand law at all. However, when you understand and you deep dive into the understanding of law, that is when you understand that law makes you a wiser version of your own self, so that you can resolve the problems at hand. That is more important than anything else. Then we have rebates after the completed purchase. So there are applications which is linked to the credit cards, and so there's 10% extra when you are utilizing credit card, paying by it. So you get, once there's execution of the, I would rather say the execution of whatever you are purchasing in the online world, you're given some kind of rebate. This is G06Q30/0234. Okay, stock exchange, commodities, derivatives, currency exchange. This is under G06Q40/04. ICTs. I've been working in the ICTs for the longest time. Let's talk about which one I want to pick up right now. Okay, I'll pick up medical diagnosis, medical simulation, medical data mining, ICT specially adapted for detecting, monitoring, modeling, epidemic, pandemics, calculating health parameters for individual health risk assessment. So this is under G16H50/30. Okay, taxation. I mean, as far as India is concerned, we are all about GST. I mean, that's the only thing we do when we are online or offline. The first thing, even if you like something, the first question is whether we are able to take the input as GST. So these strategies, which is around taxation of anything and everything, is under the classification of G06Q40/10. Digital content management, content distribution, H04L2209/60. Cryptography, business processing, 6 not, sorry, G not 6Q 2220/00. I think the other one I talked about, the hash chains and the blockchains or the hash trees, that's H04L9/50. So what are we doing here? Let's deep dive this. I'll walk you through the flowcharts, flow diagrams. Okay. I mean this, okay, there are two ways right now when you are purchasing any of the handheld devices, or you have any kind of device, you can always install an application programming stuff on the UI, and there at the admin end, at the receiver end or the candidate end, I rather take the word candidate, you are able to receive a user's profile and at the same point of time process the data from loads of users, vend the data. So the 4-letter word which needs attention right now is vend. It's VEND, and then provide payment for utilization for the data. So the modules here are data platform, logging engine. I don't like the word engine, I like the word module. Memory is there, data is there, RAM, ROM, and whatever we wish to talk about. Transactions and advertisements, sources, multiple sources, and third-party resources. Then we have, okay, so there's a data platform. At the one end we have the seller, at the other end we have the consumer. For the data stuff, you can add, confirm, modify, authorize the data, create a token for each unique data set, store the data in a secure encrypted hash on a blockchain, whether it's private, public, that is up to you. Smart contract. Okay, my expertise right now, one of my major expertise is in smart contracts, and creating a smart contract, controlling utilization of the data, how the data should be controlled. At the first end, can we allow the control of the data? That's the question the candidate needs to answer. We need to have those consent forms and the OPDs very much in place, so that can the data be controlled when we are talking about net neutrality in the others. Then we have perform a transaction for all or a portion of the at least of the token, document the transaction on the blockchain, enforce the monetization of the data involved in the transaction. Generate a timestamp for the transaction, which is easy. I mean, everybody understands what is a timestamp is all about. Store the transaction information, including the timestamp, on the blockchain. Ensure secure utilization of the data. So they are utilizing the data to the max. So I'll give you one example. Right now, a lot of applications, particularly in the landscape of India, so there is something called as digital gold purchase in the online world, where the candidate's account is linked to one of the bank accounts in India, and every day a certain amount goes to the application, and then it's in and out whatever the stuff is. At the same point of time, now what they're doing is they have tied up with all the jewelers, and the jewelers are putting out the jewelries on the application, and they're without even like few users, without even having the touch and feel of the jewelry in the offline world, are purchasing like coins or maybe a chain or maybe a ring or something in the online world. So that is one of the business models which is very evident. I mean, it's not a rocket science behind the business model, but this has been utilized in the context of India right now. Then we have data refinery, data vault, data exchange. Okay, storage configuration analyzer, user profile, objectify the content, tokenize the content, compensate the user for sharing tokenized content. So it's like a very simple version of what we are doing in the online world with different business models right now. Okay, this is done. I'll just go through the framework here. Okay. And if any of you wishes to utilize the data set for the small training models, you can always use my algorithm, that is Khasiga algorithm, which we are working 24/7, and that can be utilized in any of the research work. And but just using the word Khasiga algorithm in the loop, whether start, stop, or in infinite loop, it works very well, and it works very well for real data set. For the synthetic data set, it is able to even identify that the data set is synthetic, and for that the result is null and void. So we are writing smart contracts for those in and out, and obviously algorithms are always work in progress. So that's a good thing about that algorithm, and particularly it is being utilized by the DAOs. DAOs are autonomous organizations, which is kind of a justice league for anything and everything. So it works like that. Okay, do I wish to discuss this? Okay. So the $1 zillion question right now is, what is KYC? KYC is supposed to know your customer, but the data set which is being created is hallucinated data set. That is not a real data set. So rather than the candidates who are part of these enterprises, what is important is to have the KYCs of these stakeholders, which is very important from the point of view of even creating a data set which can be on the private ledger itself, or it can act as a node. Okay, so the interesting understanding of what we discussed, just a synopsis before we sign off for this particular session, is we look at the live pricing of anything and everything. What is the live pricing? So there are, even for the NFTs, it can go up and down at the spectrum range and the different bands. So we look at the live pricing of whatever we wish to in terms of when we are creating that blockchain block, and we mint or we create equations around for the tokenization. So the total value of whatever is, like, we take a range, maybe a timestamp of, I won't talk about the timestamp which we take. Is generally if I have to take a timestamp of maybe 14 minutes. So we just do the total of the amount, and that total value is glued inside the band. Then for that particular stuff, we create a digital photograph which is kind of a hash to the real thing, and park it on chain so that no one later can say this is mine, because that's what the basic concept is of NFT. That being said, at the other end of the spectrum, the tokens are for sale, and in some cases the tokens are given to the other candidate to execute certain task. So it's not that anything is free, nothing is free. They are executing task, and they are supposed to complete the task for whatever the tokenization has been done in the online world. And they can, at the other end of the spectrum, the candidate who is given those token exchange of some kind of work, they are only able to, because we have the vesting clauses. In some of our, I would say, our business models, the vesting clause is of 5 years. So for the 5 years, although the stake has been, you cannot take it out, but as and when required, we do provide them incentives so that they're able to, because everything cannot be locked in the online world. So we are giving them that incentive so that they can, in forms of coupons, and they can utilize it for their offline living. At the same point of time, it's kind of an ESOP, but a very different trend of ESOP. Now, what happens is when the market band is moving, whether it's going up or down, the concept I think most folks don't understand. There's something called as printing and burning a few tokens. So the total value inside the band itself is kind of a self-pumping balloon. So self-pumping is with the utilization of the embodiments, and when those embodiments are enacted in the online world, and it can be a combination of online work and the offline work, which can be a hybrid, then there is self-pumping of the tokenization in the online world. So at a checkout, the way the government works is TDS, GSTs and whatnot is utilized, or some kind of fee structure is there, and that is where the profit margin ratio is determined. Okay, so it's a kind of a bulletproofing, but obviously these things are always in progress, because whether we talk about metals, rare earth metals, what is important here is we have to understand the sustainability aspect first. Sustainability doesn't mean that you refurbish something and sell it at a higher cost. A lot of folks are doing that, but that is not what sustainability is all about. Thank you for watching this out. So this is one example data set of tokenization platform for applications, which can be utilized in multiple ways, because a lot of ingress and egress happens at any given point of time. Thank you for watching it out. Have a great day ahead.